Following on from last week's pitching session, today we're going to do a bit of chipping work with you, and we're going to use that imaginary pane of glass we spoke about last week. So if you remember, that pane of glass which was about hip high, parallel to the ground there, with a pitch shot we were looking to smash the glass on the way back. With a chip shot, as I alluded to last week, we're just going to focus on keeping that club head beneath that pane of glass throughout. So that's not just on my back swing, that's also going to be on my through swing as well. So keeping that club head beneath the pane of glass on the way back and on the way through as we're hitting that shot there. Okay. Now there's a lot of coaches out there who don't like the idea of putting, or so they when doing the chip shot saying, I don't like the idea of putting. Personally, I quite like putting. I like the idea of putting with loft when I'm playing a chip shot. And for me, it's all about conscious rotation. Okay. Now, if you imagine, if you were putting right now, you set yourself up side on to the target. Okay. And as you're doing the stroke, one thing I always talk about is trying to keep your hips very still throughout the stroke. So you feel like it's just a nice pendulum stroke, just a rocking of the shoulders, backwards and forwards. See how my lower half is staying quite quiet, or staying very quiet as we're doing the shot. For me, same thing applies when we're playing a chip shot, with a couple of little subtle differences, but the same thing applies here. So for pitch shots, I'm thinking conscious rotation. So I'm actually thinking about turning my body as I hit the shot. With a chip shot, there will always be a bit of rotation because of the length of stroke that you do. The longer you make your backstroke, the more there'll be a bit of rotation. But with a chip shot, I'm not thinking about turning my hips as I'm playing this shot here. Okay, so I see it as quite a lateral movement or a side-on movement here. So when I've set myself up to play a chip shot like so, notice that when I finish the stroke, I'm not really focusing on turning my body towards that target. I just want to feel as though, so I've got set myself up with a 50-yard target here. So that position there like so, and go back, through, and hit that ball towards that target. And so I'm not really thinking too much about turning my body towards that target as I hit that shot. All I'm thinking about is my stroke, the length of my backstroke, length of the through stroke. Okay. So when we're doing our setup, start position, if we were putting right now, what I always say to people is, try to have, I only ask for 3 things in the setup. First is eyes over the golf ball, so you can tell, or see the path of the golf club as you're doing the stroke. The second is the ball towards the front of your stance, because you want to catch it on the upstroke as you're playing the shot. And the third one is about a shoulder whip start there to give you a nice bit of stability. With a chip shot, it's exactly the same with a few subtle differences. We don't want the ball at the front of our stance, so therefore, how do we move the ball back in our stance without actually moving the ball? All we're going to do is you're going to move your back foot towards your front foot there. So you notice right now in my setup, it always looks as though the ball's right at the back of my stance. I should really move back so you can see the ball, like so. So you can see, so this position here, like so. Currently the ball's at the front of my stance. Then I move it to the back of my stance. You see where now the ball looks much more central in my stance towards that back foot. So I haven't actually moved the ball. All that's happened is by making my stance narrower, it appears that the ball is slightly more towards the back of your stance. The second thing is I want to turn this, so I've got a 9 on here, but again you can chip with any golf club in your bag. So it's just the technique that we use in playing the shot here. So I've got to turn this 9 iron into the length and lie of a putter. Now if you notice here, when the sole of the golf club sit flat on the ground, the shaft sits at a different angle, both of those golf clubs there. Okay, so actually I've got to try to match the shaft angles up in that position here. So what you'll always notice when you're playing a chip shot, you feel as though the heel of the golf club is just a little bit off the ground. Okay, don't worry too much about that. Okay, so that position there, so it's easy to change the lie of the golf club, literally just raise that club up to match the putter. The length of the golf club, really simple. All we've got to do is grip down on the shaft of the golf club to where our hands would naturally be when we're putting. I've got quite long arms and I'm quite a short person, so my putter's not the longest putter in the world, but what you'll notice here is that my hands sit like so on the putter, so therefore if I'm doing a chip shot, whichever club I'm using, I want my hands to be the same distance from the ground as they would be if I was doing my putter. Okay, so if I was chipping, for example here, with a 4-iron, what you'd notice now is, with a 4-iron, I actually have my hands right down on the steel of the shaft in this position here like so. Okay, so I'm not worried about holding the grip of the club, I'm just trying to turn this golf club into the length of my putter, because all I'm interested in is the loft of the golf club. I'm not worried about the length of the golf club, it's all about the loft for this shot here. Okay, so we're going to set ourselves up that same way. So we set up as though we're about to do a putt. So eyes over the golf ball, ball towards the front of your stance, holding the golf club the same length and lie of a putter. I actually even hold it as though I'm holding my putter in that position there. So usually I interlock my fingers for a normal swing. For a putting stroke or a chip shot, I do what we call a reverse overlap. So as long as your chipping grip and your putting grip feels different from your normal grip, I'm happy with. So because there's a million ways that you can hold the putter and the chip shots. Okay, so as long as it's different from your normal swing, I'm happy with that there. Then from this position here, move the ball to the back of your stance. What you notice now is see where the butt of the golf club protrudes up here. I want to try to hide that shaft up my left sleeve in my setup position here like so. See where I'm pushing my hands forwards. Two benefits for doing this. First of all, just gets the golf club out of the way, so there's less chance that club getting caught up on your clothing when you're playing the shot. And secondly, it gets your hands forwards in your setup here. Okay, because by having your hands forwards as you're playing the shot, there's a much less chance of you catching it fat, catching it thin, hitting those bad shots there. Okay, so in our setup position, we're going to be quite sort of military in the way we do it, and have a quite disciplined routine. So eyes over the golf ball in our setup, move your back foot towards your front foot, push the golf club towards the target, then back and through as you're playing that shot there. Okay, and chipping it towards the target. As I'm playing that shot, I'm not thinking about rotating my hips. Okay, for pitch shots, I have a conscious rotation. So as I'm playing the shot, I smash the glass on the way back, that pane of glass on the way back, smash the glass, and then I consciously turn towards the target when I finish the shot here. With a chip shot, I'm not thinking about rotation. Rotation happens, but I'm not consciously thinking about rotation there. All I'm thinking about is this club head and trying to make sure it goes back and through